What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be solving a question I get asked many times by my friends and even just common people I meet. Who is my favorite UFC fighter? And I've been watching UFC since 2019. Over these last 6 years, I have had many different fighters, and it wasn't until late that I finally realized I don't actually know who my favorite is currently. So today we're going to go through just about every single UFC fighter that we have, and we're going to determine which one is my official favorite. This has been an unorthodox intro compared to the video you're about to see, but that's because the recording did not go as well as planned. So without further ado, enjoy, and once you're done, let me know who your favorite UFC fighter is. And how we are going to do this is we're going to be presented with two fighters up on the screen, and I'm going to choose either the left one or the right one, and whichever one I choose, that'll be the fighter that I have moving on. And we're going to go through a number of fighters. It says 256. I believe they have like 130 fighters on here, all top ones, current ones, legends, and we are going to choose between each one until we get to the very last one. That will be my official favorite UFC fighter that I'll legit tell everyone, hey, this is my favorite fighter. That's what I'll do. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. Starting off, we have Glover Teixeira and Davison Figueiredo. I got to watch both of their primes in 2020, 2021, 2022, which I think is something special when I get to watch a lot of these guys in their prime, and especially both of them as champions. Glover's rise at 40 years old was fantastic, but I'm sorry, Glover, as much as I loved your fights with Jan Blachowicz, Thiago Santos, Jamal Hill, the Jiri Prochaska one, Davison Figueiredo. I mean, his fights with Alex Perez, Benavidez starching them. Then was it the tetralogy or whatever you want to call it, with Brandon Moreno saying he's now at bantamweight, making a killing as well, making a name for himself. This one's easy. Give me Davison Figueiredo. Next up, we have Dricus du Plessis and Edson Barbosa. And unfortunately, Dricus du Plessis did just lose the middleweight championship, but he is still one of my favorite fighters. Okay, making South Africa proud. His rise to the top was fantastic, knocking out Trevin Giles, knocking out Marcus Perez, knocking out Robert Whitaker, for goodness sakes, finishing on Asanya. I absolutely adore Dricus du Plessis, and I even love Edson Barbosa, who also recently lost this past weekend at UFC 319. Look, Edson, he has always put on amazing wars. This fight here with Paul Felder, you can see in this picture, and the rematch they had, both fantastic. The fight against Sodiq Yusuff, one of the greatest Apex fights I've ever witnessed live. But I gotta go with Dricus du Plessis here, my boy. He's still repping, and I think he can bounce back and get himself another middleweight championship. Next up, we have Alexander the Great Volkanovski and Khalil Rountree. I can't believe this is a round one matchup. I love both of these guys. I rode with Khalil up until he got his title fight. I'm still riding with him now after he knocked out Jamal Hill. I don't know if I'm going to pick him when he takes on Jiri Prochaska, to be honest, but absolutely love Khalil. However, Volk is Volk. Volkanovski is just a different breed. He is truly one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. His winning streak leaning into him becoming the kryptonite to Max Holloway. And the only real men to ever beat him, Islam Makhachev and Angel Pereira, who are literally the two pound-for-pound fighters on the planet. Those are the only people to really have truly beaten Volk in his real careers, besides his early losses way back when he was fighting at like 200 pounds or something. Volk, currently your featherweight champion and currently one of my favorite fighters. Next up, Beneil Dariush and Jack Hermanson. And honestly, these two are so similar. Actually, Beneil Dariush is still in the rankings, and Jack Hermanson was just knocked out cold by Gregory Rodriguez. I've never minded Jack Hermanson, but I've always liked Beneil Dariush a bit more. I always love how he proclaims that Jesus is the reason he's doing this and winning his fights, and his knockouts are easily way more spectacular than Jack Hermanson. So this one, we're going to go with Beneil Dariush. Next up, Steve Erceg and Michel Pereira. Look, Steve, he's sad right there, and he's sad because I'm not going to pick him. Michel Pereira is easily one of the most fun UFC fighters I've ever seen. His, what was it, 8-fight winning streak with like 4 straight fights where he finished the guys in under a minute was insane. Now, obviously, on a bit of a losing streak, he's about to fight Kyle Dawkins this weekend. So if he wins that, maybe I'll put it on screen. But obviously, his losses, Alexander Hernandez, I was Magomedov, kind of tough. But when he's on, he's on. And when he is getting finishes, he is super entertaining. Next up, we have Dan the Hangman Hooker and Ibo Ozon. And had Ibo Ozon not been fraud checked by Ion Kudalaba and then get beat by Billy Elikana, I might have picked him, but easily Dan Hooker. I mean, truly, I'm trying to think of a boring Dan Hooker fight. Can't think of one. Can't think of one at all. Dude is always in a war. The fight against Dan Hooker is still the greatest Apex fight to ever exist. Don't even at me. Dan Hooker, I'm curious to see what he does next. Will he fight Armin Sarukian? Will he fight Max Holloway? Will he fight Justin Gaethje? Who knows? But Dan Hooker is easily one of my favorite fighters. Next up, we have Muhammad Mokaev and Umar Nurmagomedov, and I love both these guys. You know, Muhammad Mokaev gets a lot of hate for his style. This dude is like, what is he, 14-0 now? He is in his prime of his, actually, I don't even know if he's at his prime yet, but he's still in his early 20s. One of the greatest amateur careers of all time in MMA, and they cut him just because he put on a boring performance against Manel Cape. So he's still working his way back to the UFC. He's still getting it done, and I absolutely love him, but Umar Nurmagomedov, dude, the fact that he has been the closest to beating Merab Dvalishvili tells something about me. That should tell you all you need to know. Umar, he is the likable little version of Islam and Khabib. Khabib's cousin officially. We're going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov. Next up, we have Bo Nickel and Max Holloway. I actually kind of like Bo Nickel, but it was kind of nice to see him get humbled by Rainer De Ritter. I think he did kind of need that in his career because he kind of thought he was top dog and he couldn't hang with Rainer De Ritter. But to be fair, Bo Nickel, Rainer De Ritter just beat Robert Whitaker, so no flack on you. But this one's easy. Max Holloway is easily going to go far in this, whether you love him, whether you hate him. He is just undeniably a fan favorite. And if his fight against what's his face Dustin Poirier last time out didn't make you a fan, then something is clearly wrong with you. I am much more of a Max Holloway fan as opposed to a Bo Nickel fan. Next up, we have Shavkat Rakhmonov and Tyrone Woodley. Now, I'm a Shavkat fan, so this one's pretty easy for me. I could just pick Shavkat right now, but I just want you all to know the Tyrone Woodley I know isn't the one that was knocking out Robbie Lawler fighting Wonderboy Thompson. No, the Tyrone Woodley I know was dominated by Kamaru Usman, dominated by Gilbert Burns, dominated by Colby Covington, dominated by Vicente Luque, and then knocked out by Jake Paul. That's the Tyrone Woodley I know. Now, as for Shavkat, undefeated, all but one fight by finish. This dude's a legend. I can't wait till he gets his title shot. Shavkat, one of my favorites. Next up, we have Fedor Emelianenko and Tom Aspinall. Now, mind you, this video isn't who's the greatest heavyweight of all time. No, no, no. This is my favorite UFC fighter. And Fedor isn't even a UFC fighter. You know, he has never actually fought in the UFC. They tried to make him versus Brock Lesnar in Russia, but that actually never came to fruition, unfortunately. But Fedor is easily much more of a legend than Tom Aspinall. But right now, favorite UFC fighter. Look at him holding the real championship belt. That's right. He's your real champion. Yeah, Tom Aspinall, one of my favorites. Up next, we have Corey Sandhagen and Arnold Allen. And why are they like the same version, but in different weight classes? Why is Arnold Allen a British version of Corey Sandhagen? And Corey Sandhagen is a bantamweight version of Arnold Allen. But these two are pretty similar. If you ask me, I rock with both of them. However, Corey Sandhagen, I've been with him longer than I've been with Arnold Allen. Arnold is okay, and activity is kind of hurting him right now. And as for Sandhagen, he's next in line for the bantamweight belt. I'm going to root him for the best of luck out of these two. I'm going with Sandhagen. Next up, Derek Lewis and Hanato Moicano. Money Moicano. I might have gone with Hanato Moicano had he not lost to Beneil Dariush, but, you know, for being the nickname of Money, he's been making some kind of questionable money choices where he kind of could have gotten a brand deal or something and then didn't get a brand deal. I don't know, but this is easy for me. Derek Lewis all day. He's so entertaining, and watching him knock out Talshon Teixeira last time out was it felt so good to see. It felt so good to see. This is an easy Derek Lewis. Derek is going to go far in this. Next up, Leon Edwards and Patty the Batty Pimblett. I've been a Patty fan since what was it, September 4th, 2021 when he debuted. That's right, against what was it, like Kazula or something? I can't remember his name, but I'm a diehard Patty Pimblett fan. You know, this is easy for me. And for Leon, I've never been a Leon Edwards fan. You know, he's not overrated. People are gonna say Leon's overrated. He's not, but certainly his rate at top was very, you know, canceled fights against Hamzat, takes on a late Nate Diaz, you know, almost gets knocked down the final minute, is losing to Kamaru Usman, obviously gets the greatest comeback you've seen in a title fight, then boring after boring after boring fights, and now he is probably going to get put up against Carlos Prates or someone. As for Patty, just beat Michael Chandler. He's the biggest star in England. Easily Patty. Next up, we have Michael Johnson and Charles Oliveira. I don't even know if I need to say anything more. It's Charles Oliveira. We can make a case for Charles here. I'm so sorry. Menace Michael Johnson, this one isn't close. Next up, we have Havel Fiziev and Conor McGregor. I don't know if I'm a McGregor fan. I don't know, and I'll happily say that to his face because he makes some of the most questionable decisions I've ever seen a human being make. However, he has had much more of an exciting career than Havel Fiziev, which is saying a lot because Havel Fiziev has some fantastic knockouts. He has some fantastic fights, but yeah, gonna go with Conor McGregor at least for round one. Next up, we have Tony Ferguson and Gilbert Burns, and it's such a shame. I miss prime Tony Ferguson. I literally came in September 2019, right after he had, just been getting about to get a title shot against Khabib multiple times and takes on Gaethje. And little did we know that was the downfall of Tony Ferguson. He would never be the same after that. And yeah, such a shame. As for Gilbert, his prime was awesome. Gilbert Burns was pretty awesome. Now, in terms of who I rooted for the most, I always rooted for Tony. I think I just got to give Tony at least one nod. I'm sorry, Burns, but we'll give Tony the benefit of the doubt. I hope he can at least end his MMA career winning in some promotion. But just who I like more, I'm gonna go with Tony Ferguson. Up next is Bobby Green and Jerry Prochaska. And if you didn't know, Bobby Green actually legally changed his name to his nickname, King Green. His name is King. That's his official name. So when you go and you get your Starbucks or you go, King, who's King? That's Bobby Green. Now, Bobby Green, kind of a veteran of the game, always been a staple of the UFC. This one isn't close. I've been a Jerry Prochaska fan since he came in at UFC Fight Island and freaking knocked out Volkan Ozdemir. He's got a big matchup coming up with the Khalil Roundtree. I will tell everyone I'm a Jerry Prochaska fan. This one ain't even close. Fun one here. Alex Pereira and Henry Cejudo. Now, I like both of them, but Henry Cejudo, I will never forgive you for walking away in your prime for no reason. Coming back, losing to Aljamain Sterling, losing to Merab Dvalishvili, now not even getting fights booked. As for Alex Pereira, yeah, it's Alex freaking Pereira. He is just a completely different breed. I get he's the fan favorite. I get everyone loves him, but it's kind of hard not to pick him. He's easily making it past this round. Next up is Anthony Smith and BJ Penn, and the fact one of these guys is gonna make it through is just insane to me. Anthony Smith, such a meme fighter. BJ Penn, such a meme fighter. These are just two of the goofiest people. That they're characters, right? They're characters. But I came in watching Anthony Smith. I watched the entire end of his career. I watched him lose in his home state of Kansas, I believe it was, when Zhang Mingyang, who's fighting this weekend, absolutely decapitated him. So we're going to go with Anthony Smith because BJ Penn posts some very questionable things on social media. Up next, Thiago Moises and Cain Velasquez. Look, Thiago, I've never hated Thiago, but I guess he was always not as good as I thought. I hate to be mean, but he was just knocked out clean by Jared Gordon, which really surprised me. Highlight of his career, getting a main event against Islam Makhachev. Now, as for Cain Velasquez, I've never unfortunately seen a Cain Velasquez fight. All I know of him was the video I saw of Francis Ngannou knock him out. However, I do know the legends. I know he beat Brock. I know he put on Wars. He is great, and everyone hates him for killing a child predator. Yeah, we're picking Cain Velasquez. Next, Sean Strickland and Islam Makhachev, the biggest definition of America versus Russia. But I'm sorry, I'm not a Sean Strickland fan. I think the dude is a hypocrite. I think Sean Strickland is boring. Now, mind you, he could obviously whip me. Let's not act like that's not something that I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm better than Sean Strickland. I'm just saying in terms of who I like more, who I root for, I always pick Islam. Okay, I always pick Islam Makhachev. He's about to become a double champ this fall. Give me Islam Makhachev easily. Next up, Alexander Rakic and George St. Pierre. And I'm honestly don't know much about George St. Pierre in terms of watching him fight, actually. I've obviously seen the highlights. I know everything about his career, but I've seen much more of Alexander Rakic. However, Rakic getting hurt, unfortunately, kind of killed all the hype I had for him. I think he would have fought for a belt had he beaten Jan Blachowicz. So I do say that is why I'm going with George St. Pierre here. But yeah, I'm sorry, Rakic. Got to go with GSP. Next, Davison Figueiredo, the God of War, taking on Giga Chikadze. Yeah, we're going with Figgy. We're going with Figgy. Look, Giga thought he was top dog, but after he fought Calvin Kattar, he was quite literally never the same. All right. I don't know what his ceiling is. They really need to have him fight an up and comer instead of just fighting ranked guys because we really need to see what his potential is. And for Figueiredo, we know one of the greatest flyweight champions of all time, the tetralogy fight against Brandon Moreno. I mean, 1-1-1, and they had to settle it on one more fight. Figueiredo is insane. He's awesome. We're picking him.
Next up, Ian Gary and Jalen Turner, and by some miracle, Ian Gary is going to be advanced. So yeah, I'm sorry, Jalen Turner. Kind of a rough way to end his UFC career. I never hated Jalen Turner at all, but Ian Gary, I love to hate him. He really needs to go full heel. He needs to go full Hollywood Hulk Hogan. He needs to embrace it. He needs to be villain Conor McGregor. That's how he's going to get over. And honestly, when he fights, you always are curious and want to watch. So good go with Ian Gary. Next up, you gotta be kidding me. Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. Is this serious? Are we serious here? Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. This is about as dead even as you can get. For me, I love both these guys, but the only reason I'm gonna pick Dustin Poirier is because he always knew his place. He always respected the interim belt, and Justin Gaethje for some reason feels entitled to fight Ian Topuria, coming off one win over Rafael Fiziev. I just cannot understand that. So that's the only reason we're picking Diamond here. This one's about 50-50. It's a shame these guys have to meet at round number one. Next up, Yair Rodriguez and Matus Gamrot. Actually, people are probably going to pick Yair, but I am not a Yair Rodriguez fan. I am yet to see an exciting Yair Rodriguez performance, and he is worse than Justin Gaethje, claiming he should get a title shot after beating 38-year-old Patricio Pitbull. Or what are we talking about here? What are we on? What earth are we on? Meanwhile, Matus Gamrot is calling out rising up and comers he wants to fight. Yeah, Yair, we're not even going to give you any screen time. Give me Matus Gamrot. Next up, Jamal Hill and Kevin Holland. This has got to be the biggest discrepancy between Kevin Holland fan favorite, Jamal Hill the fans hate him. I'm sorry, it's just how it is. Kevin Holland is loved. When Kevin Holland fights, we all cheer for him. When Jamal Hill fights, we all hope he gets knocked out. So Kevin Holland all day. Next up, Jorge Masvidal and Alexander Gustafsson, two legendary fighters. Jorge Masvidal, the greatest journeyman of all time. I was able to see his prime, knocking out Darren Till, knocking out Ben Askren, knocking out Nate Diaz, fighting Usman twice. Now, as for Gustafsson, I thought he beat John Jones that first time around. I was able to watch that fight back. I loved his knockout of Glover Teixeira. Been in some fun fights before. I'm actually going to go with Gustafsson here. We're going with the Swede. Next up is Brian Ortega and Eddie Alvarez. One thing I hate to say is I've never really picked Brian Ortega in a fight. If I'm being honest, I've never really picked him. And as for Eddie Alvarez, I'll never forget how much every time when I first got into UFC, all the footage I watched back, I would always just rewatch McGregor knocking him out and just be so happy. For some reason, I just hated Eddie Alvarez for no reason. I'm gonna send Brian Ortega through, but it's just funny that I had hate for Eddie Alvarez for really no reason. Next up is one of the favorite commentators on the booth, Michael Bisping, and the current number 2 bantamweight, Piotr No Mercy Yan. And yeah, we're Piotr Yan fans on here. I've always been a Piotr Yan fan. People hate his style. I think he's a fun, technical fighter to watch. I think he should be the bantamweight champion right now. Actually, Murat probably would have taken it off him at some point. But yeah, Bisping, I just didn't grow up on him. I do really like Michael Bisping, but this is just purely based off of active fighter, which I guess I putting through guys who aren't active, but I am going to go with Piotr Yan. Match number 30 here, Magomed Ankalaev and Marlon Chito Vera. Yeah, we are Magomed Ankalaev fans here. I don't know what it is. I just love these Russians that go on crazy win streaks. And I picked Magomed to beat Vera when everyone said I was crazy, which was honestly not that crazy of a take. For Vera, I liked him to a point, but as of late, I really haven't. I hate that he thought he won in that Sandhagen fight. Ever was that back at UFC San Antonio? Where was that? UFC Houston or something? I don't know, but yeah, I'm going with Magomed here, your current light heavyweight champion. I think he is, just in terms of which fighters I like to watch more, Magomed. Up next, Hamzat and Francis. I cannot believe these are the matchups I'm getting against one another. Obviously, both equally amazing, but yeah, where Hamzat stands on this channel, we're Hamza Chimaev fans. Ngannou, I love you. You shouldn't have left the UFC. You got paid, Ngannou tarnished his reputation to get paid. I will say that. He needs to get more active if he's going to do anything. But the fact he missed PFL Africa is awful because he was clamoring for, to go to Africa to showcase all the fighters. He doesn't even show up. So we're going to go with Hamzat Chimaev. Up next, Tatsuo Taira and Brandon Moreno. This is going to get controversial right here. I'm picking Tatsuo, guys. I am picking Tatsuo Taira as my more favorite of a fighter than Brandon Moreno. No, don't get me wrong. I love Brandon Moreno, but Tatsuo Taira, there's just something about him. I've been rooting for him since he came in 2022. He is going to be in a title shot soon. Brandon Moreno, maybe it's just because I've seen so much of him over the last 5 years, but I'm going to go with Tetsuya Terra in terms of which fighter I like more. Mind you, this isn't who I think would win, which, by the way, I might pick Tetsuya Terra, but in terms of who I think is my favorite fighter. Up next is Kai Kara France and Sean O'Malley. Sugar Sean waiting to get back in the octagon. Kai Kara France, love the guy actually. I'm surprised he has double-digit losses. It's actually pretty crazy. Recently got a title shot against Pantoja. Felt good for him. He's always fun. He's always exciting. He always brings the pressure, but yeah, I hate to go with the mainstream guy, but Sugar Sean O'Malley, been watching him since he came in off of Dana White's Contender Series. He's still killing it to this day. We're going to see how he can bounce back from his back-to-back championship fight losses, but in terms of favorite fighter, Sean O'Malley. Next, we have Movsar Evloev and Jan Blachowicz. I actually don't hate Movsar Evloev as much as other people do, but Jan Blachowicz, when I came into the UFC, this was one of the first fights I ever watched live. Jan Blachowicz versus Corey Anderson in New Mexico, and watching Jan rise to the top, defeat Dominic Reyes, defeat Adesanya. I was always a fan. Always been a fan of Jan Blachowicz. I've always loved him. Evlov really is a villain of the UFC. People really hate Evlov, so Jan Blachowicz should make a lot of people happy. Up next, Benoit Saint Denis, Michael Chandler. Why don't we just make this fight? Can we just make this fight if Benoit Saint Denis beats Mauricio Ruffy? Can we make this fight? BSD all day. I'm a God of War fan. I've been a big fan of Benoit Saint Denis since he came in, took a fight on short notice against Liz Zaleski dos Santos. And as for Chandler honestly is one of those fighters. It's so easy to love Chandler, and he makes it hard to like him. He makes it hard to like himself, which is really tough to do. And he lost the latter years of his career waiting for Michael or Conor McGregor. So that was why we're going with Benoit Saint Denis. Next, oh my, Anderson Silva and Amir Al-Bazzi. I'd maybe pick Amir Al-Bazzi if he's more active, but dude has 2 fights in the last 2 years. That will not get it done at all. Actually, he fought in July 2023, I remember. Had 1 fight in November 2024. Hasn't fought in 2025. Actually had a canceled bout. Yeah, we're going with the GOAT, Anderson Silva. Up next, wow, Khabib and Jack Della Maddalena. This is funny. Jack Della Maddalena is actually going to be fighting his protege, Khabib's protege, Islam Makhachev. But yeah, this is easy for Khabib. I'm so sorry, Jack. He is one of the most entertaining fighters. You'll see he has great boxing, great takedown defense. He's exciting. His comeback against Gilbert Burns, one of the best comebacks of 2024. But Khabib, the Eagle, just a lovable guy. Just a lovable guy. Up next, 2 GOATs, other divisions. Robert Whittaker, Stipe Miocic, the greatest heavyweight of all time, and one of the greatest middleweights of all time, Robert Whittaker. This one's tricky for me. I like both these guys. I was always a Stipe fan when he was taking on Daniel Cormier. Even when he fought Ngannou, I was always a fan of him. And as for Robert Whittaker, always have loved Robert Whittaker. Now, I'm just going to go off of personal preference, and my pick is Stipe Miocic. There's really no thought into it. I am just going to choose Stipe Miocic because it's 50-50. Instead of flipping a coin, we're just going to impulse pick Stipe. Up next, we have Calvin Kattar and Nikita Krylov, 2 guys who, man, so close to championship fights and just lost it. Just lost as Nikita. I think he had to go fight in the war in Ukraine, I'm pretty sure. Calvin Kattar was never the same after the Max Holloway fight. Actually, Calvin Kattar, people are going to say it started with the Max Holloway fight. It started when the judges robbed him when he fought Josh Emmett. That is truly where his whole downfall started. I rock with both of these guys, but I'm actually going to go with Calvin Kattar here. Sorry, Nikita. I guess I'm on Team Russia instead of Ukraine. Next, that might have been controversial. Aljo and Demetrius Johnson. I'm actually have come around on Aljo. I used to hate him when I started watching. I'd always root for everyone else like Peter Yan. I'm not beating these Russian allegations, am I? But Demetrius Johnson, I've clearly come to love him much, much more. The greatest flyweight champion of all time. He's going to be impossible to catch. Pantoja's going to need to do a lot of work to catch him. This one's easy for me. Demetrius Johnson, kind of a shame he retired, but makes sense. There's no one else to fight. Up next, we have Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Song Ye Dong. Kind of a shame they cut Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I wish they would have re-signed him, but he's actually fighting in John Jones's MMA boxing promotion at the end of the month, which is pretty cool. But this one's easy for me. Song Ye Dong. Fan of him since the get-go. I cannot believe he is missing. I cannot believe he is missing the UFC Shanghai card, but there is rumors him and Umar are the Vancouver main event. Fingers crossed. That would be utterly amazing. Yeah, we're going to go with Song Ye Dong here. Massive fan of him. Up next, two former title challengers, actually former champion in Hopfield, Zos Anjos and Yoel Romero. Yoel still fighting to this day. Can you believe it? Yoel Romero, just relentless, just insane. As for RDA, I don't know. I never really came around on RDA, to be honest. Always fun, always one of the greats, but hey, I just never was really like, oh, RDA's fighting, yay. But when Yoel Romero was fighting, oh yeah, we were so tuned in. We're going to go with Yoel Romero. Next up, Bilal Muhammad and Wonder Boy Thompson. Let me just describe this to you guys. The most hated man in the UFC for quite literally no reason. Bilal is an excellent human being. He's actually a 10 10 human being, but it's just fun to hate on Bilal. Remember the name. We don't even know his name. And Wonder Boy Thompson, the nicest guy in the UFC who everyone loves, even Colby Covington. Yeah, Wonder Boy Thompson. Next up, Frankie Edgar and Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker actually fights this weekend against Zhang Mingyang. Did he win? Huh? We'll put it up there. If he won, I'll put something on the screen. If he lost, like I think he's gonna, then yeah, that's an L. But Frankie, Johnny, I unfortunately did not see prime Frankie Edgar. So if I had seen Frankie Edgar, he'd probably be more of my favorite fighter. But I've been able to watch Johnny Walker. Winning or losing, he's always exciting. And when Jamal Hill put him out, I was in my dorm room and I literally went ballistic. That was crazy. Give me Johnny Walker. Up next, Chad Mendez and John Jones. Love him, hate him. John Jones wins this all day. I'm sorry, Chad. I have literally no real recollection of Chad Mendez. Last time I saw Chad Mendez under any fighting banner, he was doing Bare Knuckle FC versus Eddie Alvarez, which was pretty entertaining. But I've been able to watch a couple John Jones fights. He's probably much more of a favorite fighter than Chad Mendez for me. After that, Cody Garbrandt, Diego Lopez. Do I need to spend any time on this? Cody Garbrandt. Does anyone really like Cody Garbrandt anymore? I don't know, but everyone likes Diego Lopez. Who doesn't love Diego Lopez? And everyone's picking Gene Silva. Low key, I might ride with Diego Lopez in that fight. Not to drop a prediction early for the Spreadsheet podcast. Make sure to check that out. But Diego Lopez all day, much more my favorite fighter. This dude is action packed from the get go. If you haven't seen Diego Lopez highlights, go watch them right now. Next up, Calvin Gastelum and Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan here. I love his win streak. I love the moxie. I kind of love that he's like this rich kind of guy from Armenia or whatever he's from. Or was he Moroccan or something? Monacoian? I don't even know where Arman's from. But Calvin, I don't know. Never really got on the Calvin Gastelum hype train. I came in after he had fought in Adesanya, and he never really was the same after that. So Arman Tsarukyan. Next, Chris Curtis and Chael Sonnen. This is the easiest matchup I think I've ever going to do. Chael Sonnen all day. I want Chris Curtis to take some notes that Chael Sonnen grew up on the mean streets of West Oregon. Okay, it's tough out there, Curtis. It really is. And Chael Sonnen is an inspiration to us all. Next up, Ikram Alexarov and Alexander Pantoja. This one's tricky for me. I love both these guys. Alexarov is on the come up. He's got a big fight coming up with Andre Muniz. I think, is that the fight booked? I don't actually know if he's fighting Andre Muniz. That might have been the fight he was supposed to have before he took a short notice fight. But Alexarov, he'll be in the rankings sooner or later. His only career losses, Hamza Chimaev and Robert Whitaker. That's insane. As for Pantoja, the second greatest, third greatest flyweight champion of all time, it's hard not to love him, and I'm on this train. I don't know who's beating Pantoja. We got right at the champ, Pantoja. Next up, Ian Topura and Matt Hughes. And, for this, I'll just say Matt Hughes, absolutely adorable. Absolutely love him. Unfortunate what happened with the train accident. Really pray for him still to this day. I pray that the Lord looks over him. But it's El Matador. It's El Matador. Ian Topura, I've been a fan since I watched him debut on short notice against Yusuf Zalal. And now he's the greatest fighter on the planet, Ian Topura. Next up, Jose Aldo and Nick Diaz. This one is insane. If you were to ask me, who do I like more, Jose Aldo or Nick Diaz? Simply because I love the chaos. I love the boxy. I love the don't give a bleep attitude. I'm going to go with Nick Diaz. That may be controversial, but Aldo, still love you. Next up, Anthony Pettis and DC. I can't believe people hate on DC on commentary. When DC's on commentary, I get happy. I think he's lovable. I think he's funny. I think he's one of the greatest personalities. And yes, he is one of the greatest heavyweight/light heavyweight champions of all time. As for Pettis, this was probably the highlight of his entire career. This very moment right here. Sorry, Pettis. I'm going with DC. Next up, MVP and Dominic Cruz. I kind of wish I had picked MVP to beat Jared Cannonier, but I'm back on the MVP hype train. And as for Dominic Cruz, I never really got on his hype train. To be honest, MVP all day, much more exciting, much more fun. He just needs that belt like Dominic has. I cannot believe these two are matched up right now. Paulo Costa and TJ Dillashaw. I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm gonna go with Paulo just because TJ is kind of, I never came into him when he was in his prime fighting, and he's a cheating steroid man. And you know who doesn't do steroids? Paulo Costa. He definitely doesn't have a secret juice. Up next, Jim Miller and Marvin Vittori. I love both of these guys. However, Marvin, I am so very sorry. My sweet Italian dream. Jim Miller's a legend. When Jim Miller fights, I'm getting all antsy. I'm getting all excited. When Marvin fights, you kind of know what to expect. Now, he did have a fight of the night against Brendan Allen, which is pretty crazy. That beat out two other fights on that UFC 318 card. But Jim Miller, legend of the game. We're still riding with the Spartan as a favorite fighter. Ooh, up next, Kamaru Usman and the Korean Zombie. This is unfair. I shouldn't have to pick this. Do I have to pick this? Just because of the walkout, just because of the nickname, Usman, I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of yours, but the Korean Zombie, I love. Up next, we have Adesanya and Sergey Pavlovich. Now, don't get me wrong, Sergey has had two back-to-back awful fights. His last time out, they've been bad, but he's about to bounce back against Waldo Cortez Acosta. Did he win this weekend? I don't know. We'll have it popped up right there. But as for Adesanya, he also makes it kind of hard to be a fan of his at time. He's just kind of just spewing off the weirdest things on social media. And as for Sergey Pavlovich, he's a Russian wrecking machine. And I realize I'm not beating the USSR allegations here because I'm picking Sergey Pavlovich. Up next, we have Matt Serra and Bryce Mitchell, a battle of two of the great American patriots we have in this country. I'll just save you some time. Matt Serra, I just never really had the privilege of watching him fight at much. And as for Bryce, I've been able to follow his career, and politics aside, I don't really mind him as a fighter too much. Plus, he brings the Bible to the ring. We like that. So we have Jeff Neal and Nasruddin Imavov. I am a Nasruddin Imavov fan, which kind of sucks because I liked him when he fought Izzy, and he's fighting Cabral, and I kind of like both of them. As for Jeff Neal, never really was a fan of Jeff Neal, and he just got knocked out cold, so that kind of sucks. We're going with the Russian Nasruddin. He's also French, okay, so we're not picking all Russian fighters, right? Up next, Dominic Reyes, Curtis Blades. Love both of these guys. By God, go with Dominic Reyes. Watching him just rise to the top, lose that fight to John Jones, go through 4 straight knockout losses, then to come back and just go on this win streak. He's getting a main event against Carlos Ulberg in Perth, Australia. It's resilient. As for Curtis, kind of put on a boring fight against Rizvan Kuniev, who was unranked. Yeah, we're going with Dominic Reyes. Close to the end of the first round, Alex Perez, Josh Emmett. I'm gonna go with Josh Emmett here. Look, they both give us good KOs here and there, but I'm much more of a Josh Emmett fan. Alex Perez is so inactive, it's insane. Oh man, I can already hear the comments. Neil Magny, Colby, Covington. Is it wrong to say that I used to be a massive Colby Covington fan? And unlike most people, I actually kind of unbecame a fan of him. He kind of trashed me after he lost at UFC 296 to Leon Edwards. He called everyone a bum. He said we're all brokies. I'm no brokey, Colby Covington. However, does Neil Magny have a fan base? No offense, Neil Magny. Would love to have you on my podcast, but I'm just saying he doesn't really market himself at all. I'm gonna go with Colby. Next, we have Nate Diaz and Alexander Volkov. This one kind of tricky to me because I really like Volkov as a heavyweight, but it's Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is also very mainstream. Nate Diaz is also much more of a personality nowadays than a fighter, and it's his favorite UFC fighter. And unlike Nate Diaz, who snuck by in round one, I'm going to give this one to Alexander Volkov. What a shocker. Comments are going to hate me. And to round out the round of 128, Zabit and Marab. Zabit, it's a shame I never got to see you fight, man. Had to retire early just due to health conditions. And as for the wrecking machine on the right, Marab, one of the greatest bantamweights I've ever seen. I think he is the bantamweight GOAT. I get people are going to say Dillashaw, Cruz, Barao. Nah, I think Marab is the bantamweight GOAT. What he's done is just insane. He's Georgian, he's American, and he's one of my favorite UFC fighters. So with that, guys, we move on into the round of 64. So this is where we're going to be starting to get repeats, and this is where we're going to actually figure out who my favorite fighter is. And as we go through these rounds, the video is probably going to come to an end more quickly. It's usually these first 2 or 3 rounds which take the longest amount of time. And as we can see, this first matchup here is just fantastic. Derek Lewis, Colby Covington. Quite honestly, the personification of everyone hates Colby, everyone loves Derek. And 2019 Zach would have picked Colby Covington in a heartbeat. But this is 2025 Zach. This is a mature Zachary Ruger. It's not like I'm wearing a little cutoff while recording this at all. Derek Lewis, knocking out Chantel Teixeira, knocking out Marcos Rogelio Lima, knocking out Rodrigo Nascimento, turning back all the Brazilians that are trying to have a face is just so fun to watch. The Black Beast is amazing, and he is much more of a favorite than Colby. Anthony Smith just as Duplessis. Zero, no diff here. Is that what we can say? DDP clears Anthony Smith. I think if they were to actually fight, DDP would destroy Anthony Smith, if I'm being honest. Much more of a fan of DDP. I think he's more exciting. I think he's more fun on the mic. I think he's more fun outside the ring. Anthony Smith is just kind of weird. Up next, Devison Figueiredo, Korean Zombie. Ooh, a tricky one, a super tricky one. I like both of these guys equally. They're really amazing. But Korean Zombie is retired. Devison is still going at it. So I think just for that reason alone, which by the way is not going to be enough for some other guys, I am going to stick with Devison Figueiredo. It's a shame I was only ever able to see 2 Korean Zombie fights. Actually, was it 3? Actually, he fought Dan Ige, Brian Ortega. Actually, Volk and Holloway. So I saw 4 Korean Zombie fights. I have seen probably double Devson Figueiredo fights. Next up, Io Topura and John Jones. Look at these images. So similar, and this one's easy for me. Io Topura all day, and I like John Jones. I really do, but Io Topura is just, I love everything is about the way he dresses, his moxie, how he fights. He is just everything that is good about MMA. Io Topura all day. Up next, Diego Lopez and Sergey Pavlovich. Yuck, yuck. I like both of them. I can't believe I have to choose. How are they matching these two up? And then I have to send someone between freaking, what is it, Anthony Smith and Neil Magny through or something. Whatever matchup it was earlier. But look, Sergey, love you to death. But Diego Lopez is truly amazing. Dream, believe, and make it happen. Should I get that tattoo on my chest? I think I'd look good with it too. Up next, Paul Costa, Sean O'Malley, and we're going with the mainstream guys. Okay, we're going mainstream. Sugar Sean, I do like him more than Paulo, but Paulo did just pick a win over Roman Kopilov. He's looking to bounce back. He's looking to get it going. You know what? We're gonna go with Sean O'Malley. Nazardine Imavov. Now, I rock with both of these guys, but in terms of who now I root for, Tony Ferguson just was so bad at the end. It was really tough. And as for Nazardine, he's on the rise. He's on the come up. Big main event coming up. I'm gonna go with Nazardine. Anderson Silva and Johnny Walker. I am much more of an Anderson Silva fan than a Johnny Walker fan. 2 fun fighters coming out of Brazil, but the greatest middleweight champion of all time, Anderson Silva. Yeah, we're definitely going to ride with him. Up next, Dominic Reyes and Khabib Nurmagomedov. A tricky one here in terms of favorite fighter. This one's tough. I was a Khabib fan. He hasn't fought in a while, so you only get tidbits here and there. And as for Dominic Reyes, like he is an active fighter I actively root for. And when I think about that, I honestly think about when he's fighting, I'm nervous for him. Okay, and as for Khabib, I only saw one Khabib fight live. All right, and that was him versus Gaethje. That's the only fight I saw live. No, actually, that's a lie. I saw the Dustin Poirier one too, but I root for Dustin in that case. So we're gonna go with Dominic Reyes here, surprisingly. Up next, Peter Yan and DC, and quite the opposite. Even though I root for Peter Yan, I'm actually gonna go with DC, man. I don't know if I should be picking guys who aren't active, but he's just so fun and likable. I don't understand the hate. I generally am not a hateful guy of DC at all, and I think he's fun. I think he's fun commentary. I thought he was a fun fighter. We're gonna go with DC here. Up next, Brian Ortega and Umar Nurmagomedov. And this is where everything comes full circle because we are going to pick a Nurmagomedov here. I love Umar. I think he's fun. I think he's the little tiny friendly version of Khabib. And as for Brian, I'm not a big Brian Ortega fan. Up next, Michelle Pereira and Alexander Gustafsson. Alexander, sadly, no longer fights. I wish he still did. And as for Michelle, massive fight coming up. I think his fight against Kaldakis will determine if he is still able to hang in the UFC. But in terms of which one I like more and is more exciting, Michelle Pereira, at least nowadays. Up next, Tatsuro Taira and Tom Aspinall. Wow, I hate this. I really hate this. Tom Aspinall is going to get the nod for me. I do like him more, but that's just so narrow. And Tatsuro, I wish could make it farther. I am going to be rooting for Tatsuro Taira until he's flyweight champion. I know he can become it, but we got to ride with Tom Aspinall. I mean, Tom Aspinall, like the entire fan base, you are not, no one's against Tom Aspinall unless you're a diehard John Jones fan. Up next, Jan Blachowicz and Bryce Mitchell. I'm sure a lot of Bryce Mitchell haters would love to see this fight happen in real life. And, if it were to happen, I would pick Jan Blachowicz to win. And unlike, how I used to be in 2020, I'm no longer really a big Bryce Mitchell fan. He doesn't have the most exciting style. I don't really understand a lot of the stuff he says at times. And yes, Jan Blachowicz, he's a Polish powerhouse, and I love me the Poles. Up next, Ian Gary and GSP. I'm really tempted here to pick Ian Gary, but I am going to go with GSP. I don't know how far GSP is going to make in terms of being my favorite UFC fighter, but I certainly would lean more towards picking him over Ian Gary. Ian Gary is, I'm much more of an Ian Gary hater than in terms of being a favorite fighter, but I'm more of a hater where I would actually pick him to win. I would actually want to tune in for his fights. I will say, Ian Gary, I hate you, but I love to watch you. Up next, Dustin Poirier and Arman Tsarukyan. I kind of wish this was only active fighters, even though Dustin Poirier only retired a month ago. But I'm going to go with Dustin here. I do enjoy him more, especially towards the end. And for Arman, the inactivity has certainly made him a bit more unlikable, especially when he's like, I deserve a title shot, which he really doesn't. And Dustin Poirier came from the gutter, and Arman Tsarukyan had people clean his mansion's gutters. So we like that rags to riches story. Up next, Josh Emmett, Stephen Wonder Boy Thompson. Kind of an opinion on both these guys. I usually pick whoever they're fighting against. But I'll go with Wonder Boy. He's nice. He's fun. Josh Emmett. Hey, look, there's Bryce Mitchell again. Up next, Alexander Pantoja and Nick Diaz. We're going with the flyweight. All right, the second best flyweight champion of all time. Can we put Pantoja ahead of Figueiredo and Moreno yet? I don't know. He's certainly not on Demetrius Johnson's level, but Nick, I like you better than your brother, but that's not saying much. And I think he has some really bad brain injuries. He was like naked in a bush or something. Next, Stipe Miocic and Cain Velasquez, a dream fight right here. I can't believe this never happened. Oh my goodness, Stipe Miocic and Cain Velasquez. Fun one here. I'm going with Stipe, and if they would have fought, I'd have definitely picked Stipe. Up next, Volkanovski and Merab Dvalishvili. Tough one here. This could be a potential fight in the future if Merab runs through all the bantamweights, but I'm going to go with Merab here. I think that Volk is unfortunately at that point where he's going to start losing the belt, and this is 2025, 2022, 2022 to 2024. Zach would have picked Volk. 2025, Zach is picking the great Merab Dvalishvili. Up next, MVP and Dan Hooker. Really interesting here that I'm actually going to pick Dan Hooker. It's nothing even against MVP, but he's a Bellator guy. Dan Hooker's a UFC guy, and I am a UFC guy. Plus, that Dustin Poirier fight against Dan Hooker is just so legendary. I don't think I'll ever live down the emotions I felt watching that fight in 2020. Up next, Drew Prochaska, Calvin Cater. Easy win here. I was going to say eerie win like Jiri. It's an eerie win for Jiri Prochaska here. Love Jiri Prochaska. When he fights, I get nervous because he just has this most reckless style. His head's just going in and out, and he always finds a way to get it done unless your name's Alex Behera. So Jiri over Calvin. Calvin, I'm so sorry. He's on a bad losing streak. Up next, Matus Gamrot and Conor McGregor. I did not suspect Conor would make it this far, but I cannot put Conor McGregor as being much more of a favorite fighter for me than Matus Gamrot. Let's say these two are in the main event of a pay-per-view. I'm easily more excited for Conor McGregor than Matus Gamrot, and Matus really needs to dial it up in the finishing department if he wants to maintain a fan base of any kind, because he's been kind of boring as of late. I'm just going to tell you, Matus, you really need to dial it up, and I don't hate him at all, but we are going to go with one of the greatest of all time, Conor McGregor. Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway. Insane. This could be the next fight, potentially, if Charles wins his next bout. I mean, I cannot believe this is happening right now. I can't even believe it. But in terms of which fighter I like more, it's going to go to Charles, going to go to Bronx. Nothing against Holloway, but I think you're either a Holloway fan or an Oliveira fan, and I reside with Oliveira. Up next, Demetrius Johnson and Song Ye Dong. And obviously, this is just favorite fighter. I'm a Song Ye Dong fan. Love him. Always pick him. Picked him when he fought Petr Yan. That ate me. Picked him when he fought Corey Sandhagen. That ate me. But he always wins other fights. The Marlon Moraes fight. He certainly won a fight recently. Pretty sure. Did he beat Davison Figueiredo? I don't even know what Song Ye Dong's last fight was. That's kind of bad of me for being a Song Ye Dong fan. And for him being one of my favorite fighters, I don't even know who his last fight was. So we are going to go Song Ye Dong, but this is no Demetrius Johnson at all. Next up, Islam Makhachev, Kevin Holland. I'm sorry, Kevin, this is where you fall out. I just love Islam Makhachev, one of the most dominant, one of the most fun champions we've ever had. He's a much more exciting version of Khabib. I'll say it right now. As for Kevin, that loss to Daniel Rodriguez was kind of rough. Imagine if this fight actually happened. Islam would kill Kevin Holland. He would absolutely murder him. Up next, Jim Miller, Magomed Ankalaev. And I'm so sorry, journeyman Jim, but I'm going with the big old Russian boy, Magomed Ankalaev. Do I even need reasoning? No, I'm just picking him. Up next, Hamzat and Chael Sonnen. Now, if this fight were to happen, Chael Sonnen would never lose a round because this wouldn't make it out of a round. Obviously, Hamzat, everyone's hating on his UFC 319 performance. I thought it was just dominant. I thought it was destructive. I thought when you think of like a drowning fight, you think of Marab. That was a drowning. Like literally just he was gasping for air when he's caught in the crucifixes. I'm a Hamzat fan, been a Hamzat fan. I have never once picked him in against him in a fight ever, and we're not picking against him here. Hamzat over Chael. Up next, Shavkat and Yoel Romero. This one's easy for me. Shavkat. He's just, you watch. I grew up watching him. If you grew up watching Yoel, you'd probably pick Yoel, but I'm picking Shavkat. Benoit Saint Denis and Alexander Volkov. Love this little matchup here. I'm going to go with Benoit Saint Denis. I don't know in terms of who's been more action packed lately. It's probably been more of a Volkov stuff, but I always root for Benoit. I don't know if he's going to beat Ruffy, and I don't know if Volkov's going to win his fight against Holton Almeida, but I do know both of them. I don't hate them at all. I like both of them. I do like BSD a tad more. Up next, Bill Dariush and Paddy Pimblett. If this fight happened, Paddy would not only win, he would not only be the fan favorite, but he would just utterly destroy Beneil Dariush. Like, this is not even close. I absolutely love everything Beneil stands for, but I love Paddy a bit more. Look at his face. Look at his face. Who doesn't love Paddy Pimblett's face? Well, probably this guy, because he looks kind of upset. Up next to round out the round of 64, we get into Alex Pereira and Corey Sandhagen. And I hate to go with the guy everyone's picking, but I am going to go with Alex Pereira in this case. He is much more exciting than Corey Sandhagen. Corey's been relying much more on his grappling as of late. Now, he did beat Devin Figueiredo by TKO, which was kind of an injury thing, but you know what? That was really good for him. As for Pereira, I do think he'll bounce back in a fun way against Magomed. I just don't know if he's going to win. But in terms of which fighter I like more, definitely Alex Pereira. Getting into the round of 32, we got ourselves a nice little bracket here. Devin Figueiredo, Shavkat. I am much more of a Nomad fan for Shavkat Rachmanov. Up next, Stipe, Wonderboy. Can we match them up with someone else? I don't hate either of these guys, but they are making it way too far. And the fact that Stipe Miocic is going to make it into the Sweet 16 is kind of mind-blowing, if you ask me. So Stipe over Wonderboy. I can't believe that. The BSD Magomed. Oh, we're knocking these guys out right away. Our final two matchups already meeting. Okay. BSD, Magomed. In terms of which one I like more. It's tough to say. Now, am I getting the Magomed who's knocking out Ian Kudalaba, who's knocking out Johnny Walker, or am I getting the Magomed who's just going a boring 3 rounds? And then is it? Am I getting the Benoit Saint Denis who's losing to Renato Moicano, who's getting knocked out by Dustin Poirier and putting on a boring submission? Just depends what you get. I'm gonna go with Benoit Saint Denis. In terms of which one I like more, just think about who I root for and just kind of like Benoit Saint Denis like entire persona. Plus, did you know he was actually like a real like French like CIA, the French CIA, whatever the French CIA like unit is. He was like a killer or something. Dude's a savage. Matched up next, Michelle Pereira and Alexander Pinto. A little battle of some Brazilians. And I don't know if Michelle won this weekend. We've said it like 3 times now, but I think I like Pinto. And I think I can safely say I am a Pantoja fan. And I'm going to move him on to the next round. Up next, Umar Dustin. Look, Dustin, I absolutely love you more. If he was still active, if he was still fighting, I would definitely pick him. But since Umar is still fighting, I do think he'll become bantamweight champion once Merab is out of the picture. Actually, he is the best chance to beat Merab. Let's be real. Umar Nurmagomedov is the kryptonite to Merab. He can legit wrestle. He just has to get his striking affairs in order. So I'm actually going to go with Umar in this case. Up next, Song Yadong, Charles Oliveira, and this is where Song Yadong says goodbye. I'm sorry, Song Yadong, I absolutely love you. If it was him versus Stipe, he'd easily be moving on, but it's Charles Oliveira. Charles might make it to the end. I don't quite know, but I have just always been a fan of Dubronx since I came to the UFC. Up next, Merab and Sean. I'm just going to base this off of who I picked in the rematch, and that's Merab Dovasheli. I mean, I just like him more than Sean O'Malley, and I think he has just, become this entire staple, become this brand. He's amazing, Merab Dovasheli all day. Up next, Diego Lopez, Conor McGregor. This is where McGregor's reign ends. We're finally just keeping guys who are in the UFC in this, 1v1 thing. And in terms of which ones I genuinely like more, I think Diego Lopez is a better human than Conor McGregor, but he kind of ruined McGregor, if I'm being honest. And for Diego Lopez, who doesn't love Diego? The spinning back fist, the war with Volk. Oh my gosh, see, the closest we've seen Brian Ortega getting to truly finished. Oh my goodness. Diego Lopez, I absolutely adore you. Up next, Hamzat DC, and you can see we're kind of weaning guys out here, and I'm gonna go with Hamzat to beat DC. And if you actually saw these two were at the press conference together, or like in the backstage area, and Hamzat literally picked up DC, was swinging him around like a child, and DC was like, "You shouldn't do that." Hamzat was like, "But you're so cute." It was so funny. Up next, Jiri and Silva, and I absolutely love this. Thank you. What a dream matchup this would be. Maybe do it at middleweight if Jiri could cut the weight. But yeah, gonna go with Jiri Prochazka here. We're just kind of weaning out anyone who's not currently in the UFC and which ones I actually root for nowadays. Easily Jiri Prochazka. He may win this. I'm just gonna say it right now. He may win this. Up next, GSP and Islam Makhachev. Now, talk about a dream fight. Talk about dream fight. I can't believe I don't choose these matchups, by the way. This like the computer does this for me. And the fact that this has worked out perfectly the last few times is kind of weird to me. But yeah, going with Islam Makhachev easily. If this fight were to happen, this will be an absolute war. And even when Islam fights JDM, we're gonna have to see what a welterweight Islam looks like. When we saw Ian move up, he had a lot of success. We saw DC move up, a lot of success. McGregor, lots of success. Will we see the same stuff with his Makhachev? We'll have to see in November. Up next, Dominic Reyes, Dricus Du Plessis. Oh man, this one's tricky. I like both of these guys. Now, this may just be recency bias because DDP just lost, but I think I'm gonna go Dominic Reyes. I don't know. I feel like I've just had this loyalty to Dominic Reyes since the John Jones fight, and it's just been unbridled. I just pick him every single time. So I'm not even gonna think. I'm just gonna move Dominic Reyes on. Nazardine Imavov, easy Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis going far in this. Really happy with that. Kind of didn't even think of him as maybe being one of my favorite fighters, but in reality, he really is. And as for Nazardine, he doesn't really give you too much to work with. You're kind of just like him or you don't like him. And as for the Black Beast, if you don't like him, oh, he'll rub his balls in your face. Up next, Dan Hooker, Ito Piera. Could be a potential fight. Dan Hooker beats Justin Gaethje, gets a title fight. I don't know, but yeah, Ito Piera. This one's not even close. Almost at the end, Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira. Ooh, I think this fight could happen. I think if Alex Pereira loses to if he loses the Magomedov Ankalaev in the rematch, he's either going to get an immediate title shot against Tom Aspinall, or they're going to have him fight a Cyril Gahn, a Curtis Blades, or someone before getting another title shot. But if this fight can happen, this is a UFC 400 fight. I don't think Pereira will be around that long, but this would be utterly insane if this takes place, which I really hope it does. I am much more of a Tom Aspinall fan than an Alex Pereira fan. Sorry to say it is, but it's just how I am. 32, Jan Blachowicz and Paddy Pimblett, and back-to-back Manchester, England boys getting it done. I don't actually know which part of England. I think Aspinall also Manchester. Paddy maybe from Liverpool. I don't know exactly. I'll have to look that up. But sorry, Jan. As of late, I've gotten on the Paddy hype train, and I haven't gotten off. This was 2021. I'd have picked Jan, but this is 2025. We're picking Paddy Pimblett. Down to the round of 16. We're getting down to it. We have a battle of some Georgian fighters, Topura and Marab. I love both these guys. They both rep Georgia, but I am going to go with Ia Topura. Not much more to say. His entire presentation, his style, his moxie, his press conference, everything about Ia Topura is likable, unless you just personally hate him because he knocks out your favorite fighter, which could very well be the case. That Stipe made the Sweet 16. How was this happen? How did Stipe Miocic make it to the Sweet 16? Talk about Cinderella run for him. We are Charles Oliveira stands. There was at one point when he beat Dustin. I said if he beats Dustin Poirier, I'm going to dye my hair, and he did, and I almost did, but my girlfriend stopped me. Yeah, that's how big of a Charles Oliveira fan we are. Shavkat Pantoja. And I'm going to be honest, Pantoja, like him or hate him, he might have had some competitive fights as of late that aren't too exciting. He's also been inactive, but I am much more of a Pantoja, kind of late to the train than I am to Shavkat. Been on that train since he debuted against Alex Oliveira. Now, for Pantoja, he's exciting, he's fun, he's more active, but for Shavkat, all these wins, undefeated, a title shot looming, and I do cheer for him every time he fights. I'm going to go with Shavkat as being much more of a favorite fighter than Pantoja. Up next, Tom Aspinall, Umar Nurmagomedov. Man, it's a shame. Umar made it to Sweet 16. I am still an Umar fan, one of my favorite bantamweights, but Tom Aspinall, every time he fights, look at his smile there. That's me. That's me holding up my pizza and beer when he's fighting. I'm going, hey, look at me. I'm also happy you're fighting, Tom, even though you could probably kill me if I ever pressed you. Then Washington need Dominic Reyes. Ooh, this one is tough for me. Two oddballs that have made it pretty far, but I think whichever one goes through, people are going to be like, how have they made it this far? And as for me, I'm going to go with the Devastator, Dominic Reyes. How can you not love that sweet little face? Looks like a little boy with a beard and a scary little punching power. Up next, Derek Lewis, Hamzat Chimaev. Tricky, but I think this may be a bit controversial. People are going to be like, "Oh, Hamzat's so boring. How can you like Hamzat?" But I like him. I like Hamza. I don't need anyone else's opinion. This is my favorite fighters. You guys can tell me your favorite fighters down in the comments. But in terms of Derek Lewis versus Hamzat Chimaev, a fan favorite is Derek Lewis. I think I'm going with the villain, the evil Khabib, Hamzat Chimaev. Up next, Jiri Diego Lopez. Why couldn't the last matchup have had one of these guys in it? These guys I love way more than I love Dominic Reyes. And oh my gosh, what in the world? Diego Lopez, Jiri Prochazka, I got to choose one of these guys. Oh, boys, I'm going to be honest. I think I'm going to go with Jiri. I think we're going to go Jiri Prochazka here. I'm thinking when they're fighting, is my heartbeat racing? Am I nervous? And that's more Jiri Prochazka. So Jiri Prochazka advances to the next round. Next, Islam and Patty to round out our round of 16. And low key, I'm going to be honest, this could be a potential fight at some point if a ton of different circumstances happen. In terms of which ones I root for, in terms of which ones I like more, Islam, I'm sorry, but I'm going with Patty the Batty and not Molly McCann. Get her. Why is Molly McCann on the image? We couldn't have chose one with Patty Pimblett just being him alone, but anyways, Patty Pimblett all day. Gentlemen, we're now into the top 8 and getting into the top 8, Jiri and Tom. And I don't know how to say this without making people question my allegiance to fighters, but I'm going Jiri Prochazka here, man. I think Jiri is one of the GOATs, one of my favorites. I absolutely love him. Now, if this were to happen, Tom Aspinall would absolutely decapitate Jiri Prochazka. Let's not sugarcoat around that. But Tom, you are my favorite heavyweight. Jiri, I think you're my favorite light heavyweight. Up next, Dominic Reyes, Ethiopia, and Dom. You had a sweet run to the Elite Eight, but oh man, El Matador, the number one pound for pound fighter on the planet, in my opinion. Ethiopia is a different breed indeed. And when he fights, yeah, everyone's eyes are glued to the TV. Ethiopia. Hamzat and Charles, and I'm actually kind of impressed Hamzat made it this far. I am going to go with Charles Oliveira here. I do think as his career winds down, unfortunately, I'm someone who picks who I think will win fights, and I haven't picked him. I actually, that's not true. I picked him. I didn't pick him to beat Ethiopia. That's the only time I didn't pick him, unfortunately. And if he were to fight Max Holloway, I probably wouldn't pick him. So there's only selected fights I'd pick Charles Oliveira in. Meanwhile, for Hamzat, I don't think there's anyone right now that I can see beating him, but this is in terms of fan favorite, who I like. So we're going to go with Charles Oliveira. Next, to round out the Elite Eight, Shavkat and Patty. And I think we've had almost every weight class right now showcased in the Elite Eight, maybe besides flyweights. But Shavkat, Patty, I like both of them so much. I'm so sorry, Shavkat, but his last fight was in 2024 December, and we've heard literally no news. And it's already August. August is booked out. September is getting booked out. He has maybe a chance for October, November, December, but other than that, we've heard no Shavkat news. It's been utterly insane. I don't know what we're doing with him. And as for Patty, I just think they're always ready to get him going. So I'm going to go with Patty Pimblett in terms of which one I like more. I actually have a Patty Pimblett shirt, which I think I need a new one. I think I've outgrown mine. That's how long I've been a fan of him. Ladies and gentlemen, the final 4 are here, and Patty Pimblett, Charles Oliveira, man, this one is just unfortunate. This one pains me, man. They should just fight. Could this be a fight? If this was a fight, I'd cry because I love both these guys so much. But I'm gonna be honest, Charles Oliveira is a little too mainstream for me. Not saying Patty isn't mainstream, but I'm gonna ride with Patty. He's currently on the come up. Charles, I was with you from the favelas until you beat Michael Chandler, defended it against Gaethje and Poirier, and yeah, You know what? We're going to go with Patty, but merely because Charles Oliveira's arc has been completed and he can now rest on a grateful universe. Topura and Jiri Prochaska. Another tricky one for me. I love all these fighters, and this is where it gets kind of rough. And I just really like to think when I'm watching these fights, am I nervous? That's what I like to see. And all four of the guys we have here, I get nervous when they're fighting. Now, Jiri just gives me this special kind of nervousness. He really does. And I'm gonna be honest, Ito Pura is super mainstream now. Everyone's on the Ito Pura hype train, and I got kind of the guys who are semi underground. So I'm actually gonna go with Jiri Prochaska here over Ito Pura in what may be a controversial pick. My top two favorite fighters are Jiri Prochaska and Paddy Pimblett, which I can absolutely get behind. And that may beg the question, who is my favorite UFC fighter? And out of all the fighters, out of the hundreds that are on the roster, out of the countless there are, there's only one I have a t-shirt of, and he is the Paddy. He is the greatest walkout I've seen in the UFC. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett is my favorite UFC fighter. That's right. Share my final winner. My final winner is Paddy Pimblett. That is right. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. This was a fun one. This was a war. Actually, who are the top ones? Who are the top ones? Charles Oliveira, like I said, see, he look at that. 80%. 80%. We can't go mainstream. John Jones, E is up there. Gaethje, Aspinall, Poirier, GSP, Volk, Cormier, McGregor. So we have to go with someone slightly underground, and that is Paddy Pimblett.
Alrighty, and with that, I guess Paddy Pimblett is my favorite UFC fighter. I mean, even I was a little bit surprised, but hey, Jiri Prochaska too, they're neck and neck. I love both of them. Yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below who your favorite UFC fighter is, and make sure to check out the Surprise Shed podcast as we're dropping weekly UFC predictions every single week, and I'll see you next time for another video.